Hello everyone, this is Ray Space here once again in Realism Overhaul Sandbox and Kerbal Space Program 1.12. Yesterday, Northrop Grumman tested out the new BOLE boosters for SLS. These are upgraded boosters that are meant to give SLS more thrust at liftoff, more ISP, and therefore more payload capacity to the moon, which is where SLS is meant to go. So this is for SLS Block II, and SLS Block II would also have the EUS, the Enhanced Upper Stage. Well, it's actually Exploration Upper Stage, but anyway, EUS is up there with its 4 RL-10C3s. But this is my first time actually using Artemis Construction Kit instead of Sobel's SLS mod. So Sobel had the Space Launch System mod, and that's not been updated for a long time. So this is my first go with Artemis Construction Kit, and I have the configurations by Sky Phoenix, I believe. And so I haven't messed with those, even though I think I'm going to need to. One reason I'm going to need to mess with them is because the boosters are only lasting 1 minute and 48 seconds, whereas they're supposed to last 2 minutes and 7 seconds. So I'll need to fix that. But for now, we'll go with the boosters as we have them, and my goal is to test whether the rocket gets its payload capacity to the moon. And what it's supposed to get to the moon is actually the maximum amount that Saturn V got to the moon, which is 48 tons. So we've got a 48-ton avgas tank up here, and I'm just going to launch it to low Earth orbit, but I'll see that it has enough delta V to get to the moon after that, in which case we need 3,100 or so. 3,150 would be good. And the rocket, as it is right now, weighs less than Saturn V. It is more efficient than Saturn V. It's basically traded the first stage of Saturn V, which was kerosene and oxygen, in favor of these SLS boosters, the BOLE boosters, so solids, which in theory would be cheaper. And then the core stage is effectively a second stage. Of course, these light on the ground. And one thing I need to do actually is make sure they're the right version of RS-25s, and they give us the main benefit, make up for the fact that we're using SRBs instead of Kerolox, by being more efficient than the J2s. So that's a way of thinking about it, and it's really all determined by how expensive each bit is, and well, that's a whole other discussion, isn't it? We're just going to test its capabilities and see that it does in fact have 48-ton capacity to the moon. So, in honor of their test yesterday, here we go. Alright, so here we are. I did do a quick test to see what numbers would be good to start off with, and I'm going with these numbers initially to see how it goes, but they're probably going to need to be changed. I'm using ascent guidance so that my results can be more easily duplicated by everyone else. Otherwise, I'd probably use my KOS script, which I have one for SLS Block II. Yeah, we'll just go with this. SLS is a little bit tricky, but not when you're only carrying the payload to the moon. If you're carrying the max payload to low Earth orbit, that's far worse. Now, we're not lining up with the moon. I'm just going to go with having 3,150 in low Earth orbit as the goal here. There's other questions here. I don't think I'm using the exact engines that are supposed to go with this mod, so I'm using parts from the mod, but the tanks and the boosters and the fairing and the decouplers. But I'm not super sure that the engines have the right ratio for the tank. So we gotta keep an eye on whether we have too much to spare in each stage. Going through the clouds. Let's see. Cape Canaveral's a little bit obscured. Well, the clouds are not giving us much of a view of Cape Canaveral right now. So what exactly I need to tweak with the boosters is a good question. I could change the thrust curve. Could change... I mean, maybe they're a little bit more efficient than this is expecting, but 275 sounds about right. I'll have to see. I think it would have less thrust by this point. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna change the thrust curve, probably. Well, it suddenly turns very rapidly at the end there, so probably have to increase the booster pitch rate. I think turning to 30 degrees right there is maybe not necessarily the brightest idea for it to do, but then again we are carrying the lunar payload, not the Earth orbit payload. And off they go. The sounds are good. For now, we've got 3,128, which is really close to what we need. Oh, now it says 3,102. Okay, well, it's indecisive and floating around the number that we're looking for, so we're pretty close. Since that parentheses number is what we would have left in the stage after making orbit. And off go the fairings, 3-part fairings apparently. Those are set to automatically go off at a certain height based on this fairing part from the mod. Alright, staging. Oh, I can't switch to that. Oh well, it was looking pretty good though, as far as the ratios are concerned. Yeah, it looks like the ratios are fine. I mean, these are from my own mod, so there was no guarantee that the ratio was going to be correct based on these configurations, but I guess they are. And so far looking okay as far as getting enough delta V once we reach orbit. Well, it's looking like I don't need to tweak these any further, even though it was a little bit weird on the ascent, and maybe we want to change the booster pitch rate a little bit more, make it higher. But overall, we're getting what we need to get out of this, so that part is no problem. It looks like we will make orbit with enough delta V to send this over to the moon. One problem with this is the booster duration though. I'll have to mess with that a little bit. And also the RCS on here has low ISP. I don't know if it'll show it. It only has 100 seconds. It's supposed to have more than 200 with hydrazine, so that probably ought to be fixed just for accuracy's sake. I don't think it's super critical. Let's have it try to turn to retrograde and see. The RCS plume, the wonderful RCS plumes, I'm not super thrilled with when they're really tiny. But yeah, it's doing the job. So it could probably handle it. And as far as the propellant ratio goes with my own engines, it seems fine. So, alright, we are here in orbit with 48 tons of payload and enough delta V to get that payload to the moon. I'm not gonna belabor it any further. I thought it would take a few other tries, but it's fine. It's fine. In honor of them finally testing the advanced boosters for SLS, this was sort of a video to commemorate that. And now we have a more capable SLS on offer, as long as the nozzle doesn't blow off or anything like that from the boosters. They really need to fix that sort of thing over at Northrop Grumman. But anyway, with that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And I'll see you next time.